We're going to discuss the fact that we are all divine presences, divine beings, which means that anything in your household, any person, any influence at work from the government, from the whoever, from whatever, has no power over you. It's simply in prayer, at the bedside, you're 2, 3 years old, dear God, you know what I mean? It's Holy Father, whatever you want to say, it shouldn't change from that open space there. You had no idea what the world was about. You were just praying to be nice to your mommy and daddy, right? And your sister and brother, and that was all there was. There wasn't much more. And everything in between never happened. It's called conditioning. It's called the mortal mind. And as soon as you realize that and drop your conditioning, and it's as easy as I'm describing it. You just sit here quietly. And there's no more to it, that's it. We pray, we care, we love, we try, we help, but just understanding this is for the spiritual among us. It just is. And if you don't react to the impressions that come at you or the people around you, and if you do react to the people around you, the secret to that is to depossess them with a whisper. You look at them very quietly and you'll sense a particular being or a presence behind them. That people do this kind of work called a control. They're controlled. And if you sense that and you don't react to that, you can send it packing. I say this very lightly because it is meant, intended, and effective. Very lightly. It's called spirituality. There is a God, and you are God's divine presence. You've never been other than divine presence. Let go, what they call the mortal mind, the meditative circles, I guess. So you can do it by deconditioning yourself, by the simple way I just express it today. It's just lighter than air, sweeter than a morning breeze, kinder than a kitten's purr. It's just consciousness is spiritual. It's an endless, infinite delicacy, awareness. It's the feather's touch, away from every moment. Whether you're on the battlefield, the courtroom, the living room, just set it up in your mind to not set it up in your mind, to just be. And you will just be. I'm a spiritual teacher. When spiritual teachers have said things like that to me over the years, you know something would happen. It would, because they're an instrument of this presence that we call God, that I call you, that just is. It's simpler than breathing or sunlight. Why worry? Why be afraid? Why be concerned? Horrible things have been coming at me for the last 5, 6 years around the clock, and everyone wants me to travel, visit family, or this or that, or around the world. I made my stand here. I'm not moving. And there's nothing to do, nothing to worry about. I don't even confront my enemies. They're not my enemies. They're nothingness. When you understand what's being said, that you are a divine presence, you're an openness in this hellhole we call the world, whatever you want to call it. The material universe does not exist. I saw that wonderful movie Oppenheimer the other day, and then seeing and understanding the spaces between atomic structure and the thrill of understanding that we're not our body, and it's and that is another deviance. It's a step away. It's a road away from the simplicity and kindness of your soul. All power in the universe is in your soul, which is your heart, which is your mind. decondition your mind, your emotions, your heart, and your soul will just be unblemished, clean, upright, strong. You're a vibrant being. You're a holy personage. You are a remarkable soul. You're highly intelligent, and you care. God knows. I'm saying God knows, so that forget about the university, forget about the town, forget about family troubles. And then when you forget about it, then you look right through it and stop reacting to it. Then you realize, oh, my older sister was mean to so-and-so because such and such happened to her. And I do this on a daily basis with people that are almost entirely very spiritual, and they kind of run into them here and there, my place, wherever, and we do, I generate a divine presence. It's always there, I don't generate, it just is. And when you have them go back on their history of their life, and I sit there without reacting, I'll just feeling, let them open up, and then they'll somehow see and understand, because they feel in a safe space, because I'm completely there for them without controlling it all, just completely aware. Okay, then what happened? And what about your mom? Because I'll see the mom's presence, because she was battered when she was young, so she remarried and the wrong person, or whatever. It doesn't really matter if you, and you see all the pain of all your siblings or whatever. It's, you let go. And then you extrapolate that out to the society, to your life, to your years, whether you're in the military or school or friendships or romantic relationships, and you'll see the pain that the dark force has brought upon that person. And you'll forgive most anything. And some you won't forgive. And that has its rightful place and its rightful heritage in your heart and soul. That's perhaps why you're here, to end the madness, to judge the world, as it says in Revelation, and that's why you're here. To judge means that if you knew the Almighty, like I know you do, and you're really quiet and contrite and forget about our own personal problems, look out at 8 billion souls, you'll feel that God himself is quite humble before all this madness. To clear the path very quickly, there is an unimaginable infinite oceans and oceans and oceans of presence. I don't have a better word than infinite. I could explain it. I've done it in a few books, but it's an infinite divine reality. And only in this particle of sand, in all of it, where this world seems to exist, does this exist. So we can't quite blame God, we can't, it just happened, it had to happen, and this is where it happened, and that's why we're here, to unhappen it, because it need not be. So when you're very close to God, when you forget your own personal pain, you'll feel that, and the reason you're so humble is you're God's instrument to end all this. And that's why we don't make a great stand for ourselves as spiritual people, do we? We're going to take care of the other person first, aren't we? Because at our center is this sense of divine humility. God feels tremendous pain over allowing this to have gone on so long. God is an infinite heart and soul. God is a human being. The world, the universe is a person. It's your person. You're the projection of God in this world, but you're not even projection, and God is all there is, and the world never was. So if you understand that and stop reacting to it, you'll feel the pain of God for this thing, which is your pain. That's what we're feeling. It's not personal, it's impersonal, and yet it's God's personalness that you are, that you represent, that you will live out in this life. And you'll admonish and end and deconstruct the whole world with a whisper, just sitting quietly in your home. And this will come to you, and this will come to you, and this will come to you. I'm saying it light and kindly because that's what it is. And when you sit enough looking into the holiness of it all, you'll discover the holiness of it all looking into you. And we're just waiting for that time. And I began this short talk with the fact that, and if some of the beings that, when I do deep possessions, the word is so ridiculous, but whatever, someone is really, there's something behind them that's really bad and you're concerned, you know. And so you don't even get mad at the person who just insulted you. You got to get very quiet. Like my buddy here, we'll do deep possessions on people that we love and care for because it just happens. Because he's worked on his case for years. We had an alcoholic parent, this or that, and we have certain traumas. And if you look back in a spiritual sense, I mean, psychiatry's not going to do it. If they don't believe in God, if they're not connected to God, how are they going to clear your case? It's ridiculous. But a spiritual person will. And you're a spiritual person. Clear your case. Free your heart and soul, and the rest will follow. This atmosphere that we breathe is holy, it's precious, it's kind, it's true, and it is your body. All the beauty you feel is your personal presence. You fall in love and you disappear into that person, don't you? There are many people that I love so dearly, more than myself, literally. And I don't have the opportunity to hang on a cross for them, and I would. But I have the opportunity to stand in the middle of this mud puddle and look at the mud puddle until it can't look at me. And that's the way I'll free my friends and neighbors, my loved ones, the sacred ones that we all have in our presence. And that's what this talk is about. It's not going to be done in some social, political way. I can't even use those words. In the presence of God, it's ridiculous. The world doesn't exist, so how could the substrata of it exist? I think Joseph Conrad said, was it Heart of Darkness, that book? He talked about he said that a beautiful butterfly can light upon a heap of mud, and then light off it, like, you know, and he said, but man, with great peace and presence and beauty, but man will never step away from his heap of mud. So man, meaning mortal man, the person who believes they are their body and their life and doing their stuff. It's when you're spiritual and you're very quiet. I met a number of holy people like that. My friend Kathleen years ago, who was my teacher forever. Say when I was in Ramana Maharshi, I saw on that little thing, I don't use that stuff, but I just did. And I saw Ramana Maharshi came up, and I was in his place in India, maybe 50 years ago or so. And he had this divan there, then a couple older 102 and 104-year-old gurus who were walking around. They were his students. He probably died a bit before I was there, maybe 39. This was 71. But he was still there. You could see, if you're spiritual, my buddy John Hill's with me, and we're very quietly spiritual. We traveled all over the world together and knew all the gurus in India and all that, and Tibet and so on. And that were real, because his father had researched it 30 years. So he was still sitting there in what you'd call samadhi. He was like a golden image, and if you go into these states of consciousness, which you will or you have, and if this thing breaks open your mind, you remember, because the conditioning, the compressed reality of this world being on you all day it's not on me, and it never was, but I've lived through the same stuff that everyone does, and in order to be trained by God, by what I call the teachers, the angels, in order to understand how to relieve others of the pressure by being there with them as God has been there with me through this life. And this life never was to me as I speak. It's never been to me as I've lived and breathed. Let it go. You are the spiritual air that you breathe. And at some point when we can't depossess all of our friends and neighbors, and that's what I began this with, and you can look devil in the eye and you'll take care of business. It'll be different every time. They like putting people in little rooms in their consciousness all life and battering little young mothers without or whatever, and they're, well, guess what? I'm here and you can't move. You can't fight me. You can't win one battle, Satan. So you have to have this within you. But it's not an anger, as I'm saying that we're just to show, to present this. I don't do that in my mind, it's just like that. But at this point when your boot camp, when you know that, you're going to feel very proud of yourself, and you'll feel as great as my buddy Greg is. 10th degree martial artist, and I did karate, and he never got kicked in the head. I said, did you ever get kicked? He never got kicked in the head. He's so good. And Mr. Castro, great Grandmaster Ralph Castro, would put him in the, when people would come to fight over, he was the one that brought, with my teacher, brought Bruce Lee here, and from Hawaii and so forth. And when he was 12, that people would come to the school to fight, and want to fight one of his great fighters you'd see on the TV and all that. And they said, well, if you can beat this 12-year-old boy, then you can fight any of my fighters, even me. And so he'd have them fight Greg here, and they'd never win. But he's a kind little boy. Just someone stole his bicycle when he's 6. So his dad, a Filipino, took him over to Mr. Castro's dojo up in South City, and he basically slept on the floor, and he took me up there to meet his teacher at different times. And just so he learned to fight. But he's just an artist and a musician. He was a rock star for a while. So I'm saying there's a way to fight this stuff, but there's a way to fight without fighting. Remember Bruce Lee, when he put the guy in the boat, and he just let the boat go out, and the guy was going to fight him, and that's from Sun Tzu, from The Art of War, fighting without fighting. So I know many, I just introduced Yuri, and to my buddy Andre, who's a UFC fighter here on the way in, and he's the kindest, gentlest person in the world. It's just that he was hurt somewhere when he's young, but when he fights, he doesn't get, there's certain people, I met a street person, they're a fighter, but they have that hate and that anger, that hurt. It's like, oh my God, Greg doesn't have that. He just has instantaneous moves, and it's over like that. And that's what he teaches all the little champions, national champions here all the time. And my buddy, my teacher, Professor Mink, Peter Mink, he's a world champion, national champion. Last month he went out and fought again and got the gold medals. But the reason I'm bringing them up is they're all very, very, very spiritual. They love God, they love their children, they're all artists, and they're good business people. They keep this going, this business for everyone. And as my buddy Rob here does, he's the owner and kept it going 29 years. And if you think about how silly this world, and he's a very sensitive person, should have been an artist, but he was an athlete, set up in the gym. But to keep a business going for 29 years in a normal city in America, that's a feat in itself. You know how we get beat by little things. And I'm saying don't get beat by little things. If you understand what's being said today and let go of your conditioning of your life. I have been beat, battered. There's nothing happened to anyone who hasn't happened to me. I've had authorities and people lie and cheat and steal, but mostly for confusion. I'm not going to go into it, but like someone wrote a letter because they heard this or that, but it's because it hit their personal buttons, and rather than me saying hello to the young man who was a professional, I just simply figured out what he did wrong in his business and restructured his whole business and started a Mona Institute that helps people. So that's what you do as a spiritual person. You live a life of dreams and visions and kindness and care and hard work. At the basis of it all is quietude. This will be with you for the rest of eternity. This is you. You are eternity. You are a vision from heaven. You're God's guilt that's incarnate to say, hey, I'm sorry this had to happen. But what a hero you are to this aperture called birth, to appear here to clean it up for me So God feels very bad about it. Okay? But it's a presence, it's a purity, it's a beauty. Like Donna has for everybody and everything. She's just pure and kind and decent and true. And that's the presence of God shining through her. It's the presence of God shining through you. You are the presence of God. So anyone is on you, look at the beings, the control behind them, and you'll see, you'll recognize it. And it could be something that's kind of lost, and maybe the person that's lost like 400 years ago in Rome, but this and that happened. And if you ask, and then I'll ask it its name, it, him, her, whatever it is, the presence of, and that we'll remember, and you can heal in moments. People have been locked in time in horrible places for 800 years, 2,000. It's a wonderful process. Relieving the world of its insanity. The basis of it all is that we are not a physical body. My teacher, Kathleen, I love forever because she's more humble than I can ever dream, and I always thought humility was my gift, that it's nothing. So we'll meet people that are so refined and so wonderful. And you're never more than a hair's breadth away from this quiet place called you, called the soul, called God. You will never die. Get that out of your mind now. You will grow with this and remember with this, and at the end of it, you will be God. At the beginning of this, you are God. Whatever God is, which is so infinitely pure, so the religious words or psychiatry or this, and no one can touch this. The greatest beauty, I mean, I saw Van Gogh's Sunflower in Philadelphia Art Museum maybe 40, 50 years ago. I don't know, maybe, and I couldn't move. I was transfixed, and I'd seen holy things and from Tibetan scrolls that were thousands of years old. And I looked at this painting, this little painting, and just somehow he put God in a little paint on some canvas, in a little painting of a sunflower. I think he said, I think Van Gogh said that your job, your reason to make money is your reason to be here is one thing. It's your profession, he said, but your passion, the reason you're really here, becomes spiritual in calling, because we're all giving ourselves to something. Greg just wants to be a musician and write music, and that's he's done that professionally. He's going to get back to now because he's bored with all the rest, and he's been successful, and hundreds of thousands of dollars on a weekend sales of art, all in framing for great painters and so forth. And the whole career, but he likes sharing his heart and soul with music, magnificent voice, and we all have something, and Rob has the same fantasy, but his is going to work. Rob will still do other stuff. And that's our boss here. And so if you work on your passion with such intensity that it becomes spiritual and calling, then you'll understand everything that was just said. You are a remarkable being. You're born into a hell, and you knew it before you got here, and these are not just words. You're not your body. You're not your problems or the solution to your problems. You're made of light and air and kindness. And I say kindness, it's an infinite. People think that certain metals or there's some that you're impenetrable or tough people, or like my buddies here, like it's one, they say like an ounce of uranium could keep most of the world going, and if you get down to the subatomic level, the energy of it would be enough to keep the world, machinery going, technology for years, if you understand it. If you go to the sun, if it takes the speed of light, and if you're a photon of light in the center of the sun, it will take you it'll take you 100 years to get from the center to the surface of the sun because of the gravity of the, compression of it. But my personal experience, and many of us have had this, has been that the infinity of what God is, it's a gold-like presence, but it's so every micron of it is a trillion star systems. And you feel it, and it's a thrill, and it's beautiful, and it's ecstatic. And this is a hell, and you will have that vision. I guarantee it. That vision is you, the original you. You're made of starlight, and sunlight, and purity, and kindness. So we don't have to fight these bad bastards with guns and knives or Greg's kicks that shake a room. We don't have to do that. We have to talk to God, and God will talk to you. And when God talks to you, it'll be as though you're the only person in the world. Because to God, you are the only person in the world. Your sunlight, starlight, your kindness, you're caring, you're powerful, you're brilliant. You're serene, you're hardworking. And the deep vision of ultimate reality you've maintained deep in your heart all your life will be realized in the twinkling of an eye before the sun goes down. You are the living light. You are the light living, or the divine presence that we've all waited for, to free all of our friends and neighbors and those we love. And again, there is a judgment clause here at the end. If they won't bend, we'll put them in little rooms for eternity, infinity, whatever, but it doesn't even exist. You see what I'm saying? Because this thing behind it is an insanity. So I'm simply saying that because sometimes when you're helping friends, there's something behind it that's intractable. And when you get there, you put them away somewhere, and it doesn't matter because it doesn't exist. It's not in reality. I'm simply saying this to let you know you do have all the tools, but you won't need them. But temporarily, you'll put people that can't be dealt with because they're that sick. And I'm not talking about the cold either. Not the common cold. Real evil. We all have someone like that in our life, don't we? There's someone that's like a witch or in a life that we know does things, and they do those little, whatever those things are called, where they project this beings and energies and things. I'm not going to use the words because they're ridiculous. There's only God. So counsel the friends that you love and care for. Strengthen yourself in the quiet. And the quiet will strengthen all those you love and care for. Through your heart. Because don't you care, don't you love, don't you want all your friends, your lovers free? Don't you? Don't you wish you could take back the mistakes you seem to have made? But none of us are free. None of us, the great ones we think of in this, they've all messed up with friends or neighbors or cool words or thoughts because, I always try to fix everyone in the gym here. We run the Redwood City here, this powerhouse gym. Greg's the manager. And you have to say something to this person, but the other person there might have overheard and thinks you're making a stand with them, but you're not. Because this world has to, as long as there's two people in the world, there will be war, who think their body. That's the idea of the Garden of Eden. Naked, it's like, because that was a mistake, just in consciousness. We're all pure spirit. My teacher, Kathleen, is a woman. I guess I love her in some way, but it's not like, it's just in endless awe. The way we all feel for our mom. Or those beautiful presences we call our pets, that are our teachers. Teach us how to love more fully, more fervently, more gently, more correctly. So this passion of being passionlessness, of caring so deeply that you kind of go up in a gentle flame. It's called enlightenment. It's yours. We've all had this experience in different ways at different times in our life. Let the candle burn. You are God's candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. And that's how it will disappear. It'll go up in a puff because it cannot withstand the flame of kindness, the flame that is you. You are God's heart and soul, literally. There aren't two presences to God. We are, and with this one, and when you experience this, it's just the way it is. And then you step into everything turns inside out, and it's just kind. And you're that butterfly, lighted upon the earth, and we go. Looking at it, it doesn't exist. It's a mistaken consciousness. And we let our golden wings take us away. To you, Holy Father, and to you, his very best friend. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Scott.